Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Here I am. Let me open the chat. Let's see here. Okay, let's go to Marco. Perfect. YouTube Studio. And let's see. Oh, finally. Oh, good morning. Good morning. Excellent. Oh. Thanks for the comments. I'm just spicing up a little bit the streaming things, and I mean I've created that weird intro just to make it more chill. Perfect. So, as usual, before we start, is there anything that you want to ask me? Um, because today I have to show you first of all how to use 3D blocks in your should we send you to give us feedback on a concept art? If you want feedback in general, send me whatever you prefer. If for your final project you have made some sketches, you just want to have a feedback, why not? Feel free to send me. Could you give us examples of art student project? No. I can't, for a simple reason, that is those files are into the school server. I have not copies of those files with me, so for now I can't. If during these weeks I will be able to go to the school, then maybe, then yes, because I need to run the server at school and grab files from there. Okay, so right now I mean, immediately on the spot? No, I have not these files with me. Okay. Something else? Oops. Other things you want to ask me? Perfect. Okay. So, as I said to Vanessa, yes, if you have concepts and you want a feedback, feel free to send me everything. But let's start by discovering how simple it is to use 3D blocks inside 3ds Max. So let's close here. Yes, close all. Let's open a website, and for example, there are multiple websites you can use. I just use this one for the explanation, that is called archive3d.net, for a simple reason, that is, it doesn't require any particular subscription. You don't have to create an account. I mean, it is just for free, and it is a website. Okay, got it. It is a website here that will give you several kind of categories of objects. You can choose from here, as well as searching here things that you want to search. I will make something very simple, like I will download a chair or a table, mostly because I want to download objects that, even if I have not a precise information about dimensions, but I can control overall size. So I go to the folder, to the category that is chairs, tables and sofas, and then I will just browse, I don't know, page 7, just to find something that is not super terrible. I mean, let's try this one. Okay. So just in case, the website that I'm using and the model that I'm using are these that I will paste into the chat. If you just want to really follow same steps that I'm doing. And when you go here, you have to click download, and take care, because this button is split into two. This is download on the cloud if you want to create a cloud account here, but we don't. So we click download. Okay, download. Okay, save it. And I have downloaded a zip file that contains several elements, but I don't need to use them all. And let's check what I've downloaded. So, if I go to download, I will find this weird file here, that is the one that I have downloaded. So first step when you want to use a zip file is you have to extract it. So you have to right click on it, and you have to click extract all. And by default, Windows will give you will create a new folder that has same name of the file you have downloaded. So right now it will look weird, that is this kind of 0F024 and so on, but it's okay. So I extract it. Perfect. And this is the folder that contains everything that I have downloaded from my phenomenal website. So I can see that I am pretty lucky because not only I have this file here, that is the one with the extension 3ds, that is the object that contains my geometry, the chair itself, but I have also all these textures that I can reuse to fix also materials that are applied to my object. Okay? So till now I haven't done anything special. I've just downloaded a file and I have extracted this zip file. So now let's see how to use it. Because let's move the chat in here. First thing first is I need to make a simple try. That is, I have to from the folder where I have extracted my file, I have to select the file that is 3ds and I have to drag and drop it inside my project. Boom! And I have my beautiful chair inside my project. Okay? This is an object that I haven't created, someone else did for me. So there is a small problem now. That is, I don't know if dimensions are fine. And I can also see that this chair is made by several pieces. Each piece is detached. I have the back, I have the seat, I have these legs, and and how can I know if this chair has the right dimension? What I can do is simply this. Look, before adjusting materials, textures, and other stuff, what I have to do is simply I have to select the entire object that I have downloaded. And I have to make a group. Don't really mind the name of the group because then I will ungroup it later on. But at least I will make a group so that for 3ds Max all these pieces are considered like one object only. And this is extremely important because in this simple way I can check if my dimensions are fine, and also I can quickly change them in this simple way. Look, once that I've made a group, I have to go to the tab that is called Utilities, and there is a utility that is called Measure, and I have to click it. By clicking Measure, what I see is, because this is a group, 3ds Max will give me overall dimensions of this entire object, so of the entire group. And it actually says that, and I will highlight them here. Look, it says that right now overall dimensions of this group are these numbers written here. So it says that by following X orientation, so this dimension here, let me fix it 1 second. So this dimension here is 553 centimeters. Then it says along the Y, so this dimension is 505 centimeters. And then it says on the Z it is 845. So basically it says that from lower to higher point along Z axis, this chair is right now 845 centimeters tall. And you can clearly see that these dimensions are wrong, because a chair should be basically 10 times smaller. So here we have to use scale in order to correctly decrease size of my chair and having a one that is more realistic. So now we have just two slightly different options. There are, if you want to be just precise enough, I will show you faster way to do it, but then I will also show you with another example how you can be more precise if you want to make a little bit of math. But let me show you quicker way to correctly adjust size of my object. There is nothing else than this. Look, by keeping measure utility active and your group selected, if you simply click scale and you scale your object from the center, so in order to scale all three axes at the same time, look, what happens is that while you are scaling your object, you can also see that in real time 3ds Max is showing you dimensions of your object. So if we want our object to be like 55 by 50 by 84, we will just keep scaling these until dimensions are showing 55, 50, 84. And in this way, I have just quickly adjusted the size of my object. If you see these decimal values, so that there is this kind of 3 millimeters, 4 millimeters here and there, trust me, in 3ds Max, you don't have to be so precise, because those, when we will make our renderings, those 3 or 4 millimeters of difference are kind of dimensions that you will never see. But the only thing that we have to do then is we have simply to place our object into the right position, because most of the time when we import an object and we scale it, it happens that or our object is also scaled and moved up, or scaled and moved down. There are in general these two possible scenarios, but in this way now I can simply use my chair to make whatever other operation. I can copy it, I can move it, I can clone it, and I can manage materials of this chair. Okay? So, first of all, let me know if till here it was clear or not what I've done, so that I would like to make another example, and then I won't delete this one because I want to show you how to deal with materials of this object now. Okay, so till now nothing complex, just one additional example, that is this. Look, let's say we download something else, a bed. whatever, this one. I download this bed in here, download it, save it. Perfect. Let's should be this one, so I will extract this as well. Okay, and let's see here. So this is my second folder. I still have my beautiful 3ds file, but now my scene is not empty like it was before. So let's see what happens if I drag and drop this object in my file. You can see that this is correctly added to my project. But again, this is gigantic. Look at that. Look, what a bed. You have also to know that just when you import your file in 3ds Max, in this precise moment, no matter how many components this imported file has, it is immediately selected. And if you want to be more precise, just second super fast step that you should do after drag and dropping a 3ds file should be you immediately make the group of these objects. So you are 100% sure that all elements of your model are selected from the beginning. So just one small difference between this and the previous one. I've extracted the file, I have drag and dropped it, I have made the group, and now I have also measure utility enabled. So at the very beginning it looks like I'm making same exact thing, while I want to just add a little extra information, that is this one. Look, now I can see that dimensions of this bed are again more or less 10 times bigger than they should do in my project. So I can see that the X, and again we can see them into the utility that is called measure. So we can see that this is 1,110 centimeters, and maybe we want these to be 100 centimeters. And according to this dimension, all other dimensions will be scaled accordingly. If we want, we can also be a little bit more precise in 3ds Max when we scale things, and we can also type the amount of scaling in this way. Look, first of all, just because I am a little bit picky, I will use the calculator, and I need to find which is the exact value that I have to use in 3ds Max. In order to find this number, what I have to do is this. I have to make a simple operation, that is, I have to start by selecting the value that I want. Then I have to click divide, and I have to divide the value that I want by the value that I have right now. And then, only because 3ds Max uses, for scale, it uses percent, I have to, so 3ds Max uses percent, I have to multiply the result by 100. So look, what I have to do is this first. The value that I want is 180 centimeters, so I will type 180. Then I will click divide, and I will divide by the dimension that I have right now, that is 1810.446. Enter. And this is a scaling factor. 3ds Max uses percent, so once that I've made this operation, I have to multiply by 100 and clicking equal. Perfect! Believe it or not, this number here, so the number that is 9.9423% is the exact scale factor that I should use in 3ds Max. The way to use it is this. Look. You select your object. You click scale. Then what you have to do is you write this number here in a numeric field that is this numeric field down here. So I write 9.9423. I press enter, and look at this masterpiece, because now I have scaled my bed, and if you read into the measure utility, you can see that X dimension, so this one, for my bed is exactly what I was expecting to be. That is exactly 180.0 centimeter. Okay? Oops, I've missed one thing. Can you show how to extract again? Oops. Look, what I did to extract is only, once that you download the zip file, you have to right click on the zipped file and click and select extract all. So zip file, right click, extract all. Okay, but can you see what I've done now? I've done the same exact steps. Instead of using just my eyes to scale more or less the object, I have used a more precise numerical method to have exact dimensions that I wanted. Okay? So for those of you who want to be extremely precise, you need to know that you can be extremely precise just by following these simple steps that I've done by using the calculator, by selecting scale, and then by typing the scaling factor inside this numeric field. Don't mind if it is written only X, because when you use scale, you can see that these other two numeric fields are grayed out, simply because when you use this quick numeric way to use scale, scale is automatically set to be uniform scaling transformation. So you type a number on the X, but 3ds Max uses same exact number also for Y and for Z axis. Okay? Till here? Let me know, because now I want to show you how to how to manage materials that are here. Perfect. So now, first of all, it's becoming distorted. Yes, exactly. Oops. So, yes, I always need to make a group when I import it, because when I scale it, I don't know if, let's say down here, can you see this small screw in here? If I don't group it, I won't be 100% precise that 1% sure, sorry, that when I move it, rotate it, scale it, I am always sure that I take all small parts, simply because I haven't done this model, so I don't know how many different pieces are there. Okay, so it is a good thing to do, to group these objects together. If not, if they are not grouped, look, by mistake you can start moving this piece only, or you will slightly shift these, or just, and this is weird because you can see that it is not always logic, the process that the person has followed to divide pieces of our object. So you can see that pillows and this lower part of the blanket are one object. This is one object, even if it has two materials. So definitely yes, you should always group your imported objects so that they act like one block. Okay? Vanessa says it is becoming distorted. It is impossible, because if you click scale, and only if you do this it will be distorted. So if you drag one axis, so now let's see materials. And we are also lucky enough that in our in our folder we also have pretty nice looking textures. So first of all, let's see this. I have to open my material editor and I press M. Now I need to make something that is unbelievable. That is, I need to know which material is applied to my object. And first of all, I need to see if there is any material directly applied to the object. To discover these from downloaded objects, what I have to do is I have to open my material editor, and I have to use this tool here. The one that looks like the color, the eyedrop from Photoshop. This tiny tool up here. This is called Pick Material from Object. So if you move your mouse in here, and what it does is you click here, then you click on your object, and yes, it says that some textures are not loaded. We have to fix this problem. And what it does, it says, look, in this object there are two applied materials. Right now they are also looking black because our textures are not correctly loaded. And we will fix them in a second by simply doing this. Look, you can see that, don't mind this is because our object is a group, so even materials are shown as a group of materials. But then this is the one material, this is another material, and you can see that they have the blue color code. These are maps. So if I want to discover why there are missing materials, first of all, I can see that their preview is black. Not a big problem. What I have to do in order to correctly link the material that was applied to the object, I can just double click the bitmap, and I can see that in here the picture that is missing is called IKEA DOR PNG. And look, I click here, I go to the folder where I have downloaded, I have extracted my object, that is download, this one. So remember, the thing is called IKEA DOR PNG, so it is this picture here. I open it so that I link again, and boom, the material appears. I do the same thing in these other materials, so I double click this missing bitmap. This was called fabric.f.png, so I click the name of the file. It says it couldn't found, I know, so I go to my previous folder. It is called fabric.f.png, so it is this one. Lovely. I click open, boom, and I have my materials back. For both materials, I can now select the material and turn on the preview. Select the material, turn on the preview, or click it here. No, sorry, here. Show on material, yes. And bim, bada boom. You see your beautiful blanket with original materials applied. Okay, hey Marco, what is the shortcut for Mac? M doesn't work. For Material Editor, you mean? For Material Editor, if M doesn't work, while it should, simply go to Rendering, Material Editor, and open Slate Material Editor. Okay? And then it should work. But once that we are here, I want to show you another thing. That is, I want to fix also, let's say here we should see wood. So again, just check. I click pick material. I pick the material from this wooden structure. Poof! And look, again, Traders Max says there are missing pictures. Where is the problem? So this is the material. This is my missing picture. I will fix it the same exact way. So I double click the picture. I click on the name of the file, it says it couldn't be found. I know. I go in my folder. My missing file is called wood IKEA PNG. So it is this one, wood IKEA PNG. Click open. It shows up. Select the material. Click the preview. Boom! And I have my beautiful object now also that shows me wood. That is also, let me tell you, applied in a phenomenal way. So you can see that same material in this object, piece by piece, is applied even with the right UVW map coordinate, and this is a great bonus. So we need just to fix these the mattress material. So again, I go to material editor, I pick the material from here, and it shows me another missing fabric texture. So I double click. It is called the TK I don't know. So I just fix it. It is this one, TK. Okay. Select my material, setting the preview. Let me check, and waha! And I have my material showing. I should probably fix even screws, let me tell you. I think, to be extremely precise, there is a material also for screws. Exactly. So, select the bitmap. We'll just go fast because it is always the same thing. But I haven't read the name, so metal PNG, this one. Select it. Make the preview, and now I have my fantastic bed working. Okay? This is if you want to restore materials that are coming with these object here. But you are also free to change materials that are applied. So this is the only case when instead you should simply ungroup your object for a second. So let's say if I want not to use original materials that I have for this chair, but I want to use my own materials, only in that case I have to understand that if this is a group and I apply one material to the group, it will be applied to the entire group. But if I want to keep differences in my materials, so if I want to have a certain wood for the structure, a certain leather for these, a certain metal for that, I have first of all to ungroup it so that I have all separate pieces. Yes, the editable poly, remember, because I had also a few messages of students about edit poly / editable poly. Edit poly is, so if I use edit poly as a modifier, this allows me to modify my object, modify my polygons, and so on and so on. But just with edit poly as a modifier, you can't drag and drop materials on a selection of polygons. Remember, to do that, you must, let's say, I want the back here of my chair. I want upper half with a certain material, lower half with another material. If I want to obtain these, remember, I don't have to use edit poly modifier, but I have to right click, convert to editable poly, and then yes, then I can select polygons, and for example, let's just make it weird. So let's say I want plastic, exactly, very uncomfortable chair. So let's say I want green and red. So I select it first to editable poly, then I select those polygons and I drag and drop my first material. Then I will select lower half, so lower polygons, I drag and drop, and I have another material. As well as I can drag and drop things on an entire element. Okay. Let's use, I like it, the wood of this particular, should be this one. Exactly. So, or you ungroup so that you can apply the material element by element, and maybe here you want this flower thing. Okay. So, or you use ungroup, or you can also use convert to editable poly if you want more materials. So if you want like to have lower half of these legs with the material and then upper half with wood, you first apply the wood, then you convert these to editable poly so that you can select just these polygons here and you can apply only in that part. You can apply another material. Once that your objects are imported to 3ds Max, then they act like whatever object you may have already created in 3ds Max. There is one last thing that I want to show you in combination with imported object, and then we will start working with lights, because lights are very complex. We will see today an introduction to lights, but then we have to complete light even by using next Monday class. But let me show you last thing that I want to show you with when you import objects, because when I import objects, look, if I go to default shading and I click edged faces, see this, I can see that my objects may have a ridiculous amount of polygons. So see how many tiny polygons just this sphere has, or the blanket, or pillows here. They are, or this small wooden piece here. Look. You need to know that in 3ds Max, what makes the file heavy is not the number of objects, but the number of polygons. So I can have 20,000 boxes. And if each box has 6 faces, I will have 120,000. I don't know. I mean, let me write them. Sorry. So let's say I can have 10,000 boxes in my project, and each box has 6 polygons. So at the end of the day, my file will have its own weight, so it will occupy the memory. It will stress my computer by counting 60,000 polygons. But 60,000 polygons can be also in one object that has 60,000 polygons. And so it doesn't matter how many number of objects you have, but how many polygons you have. So a polygon like these, an object like this that has so many polygons, or just these, will start making your 3ds Max file unbelievably heavy. And once that you start putting objects on objects on objects, you will see that just by having one room that has one furniture for one room, so let's say a bed, couple of bedside tables, and wardrobe, in 1 second you will see that your 3ds Max, I'm pretending, but your 3ds Max will start lagging. So it will take forever to manage your objects. For this reason, I want to show you this unbelievable modifier that is extremely useful, especially when you work with someone else's object like this. This modifier that you have to apply is called, and this is a lifesaver, it is a modifier, I will write it here, that is called Pro Optimizer. What Pro Optimizer does, now I will show you how it works, but what Pro Optimizer does is basically it will analyze objects where you are applying this modifier, and you can start by decreasing the amount of polygons of your object without losing the quality and the precision of that object. So let's see how it works. For this bed, you should, if you want to be very precise, you should ungroup it, because we can see that these parts and these parts have a very uneven amount of polygons. But let's make it fast. So I select my group, I go to the Modify tab, and I look for this modifier called Pro Optimizer. I click it, and I click Calculate. It will take a second, and this is what happens to my object. Right now, this is how my object start looking. Don't mind about materials, simply because we should do this before fixing materials, but it doesn't matter. But see this. Right now, what we are having is that into the optimization level, we are at 100%. So our object is exactly as we downloaded. But what we can do is we can decrease now this level, and we will see that by decreasing this level, what Pro Optimizer does is it will keep the shape of our object it will just start by removing unnecessary polygons. Okay? We can't go this till 0% because if we go to a level that is extremely low, then our objects will look like they are crooked. But if I uncheck edged faces, we can see that we are decreasing the amount of level, but the quality of our object is not changing at all. So I can go like 40%. We just see something moving here, but our bed is still looking like the bed that we have imported. And in general, you can really decrease up to 30-35% of your vertices without having any distortion into your object. When you go lower than this, then maybe yes, then maybe you can start finding a little bit of problems. And you can see that when I go below 35, see, even pillows are becoming a little bit too rough. And the blanket looks like it is sculpted. It is not more as nice and soft as it was. I start having these holes into the pillow. So in general, 35% should be lower limit, from 35 to 40%. But believe it or not, just by doing this optimization, what you have obtained is that you have now 40% of your previous vertices. So let's do it just for these. Look, just this. This should be like a box. But if I press edged faces, look, can you see how many unuseful edges it has? So look, I apply Pro Optimizer, I click Calculate. You can see that this is a box basically, and it has instead, wow, 3,248 tiny polygons. So look, I will just decrease this. My box is still a box. I mean, it's just the leg of this chair. I will simply start, but oh, this is a little bit too much. Let me tell you, if I go to 0%. Perfect. But this level, even 10% of vertices is more than enough, and we have decreased it from 3,200 to 200 polygons. And in this way, our file, we will see, it will become unbelievably fast, even when we just move our mouse, zoom in, zoom out, or when we render, and so on and so on. And this is a great modifier that you should use when you download objects from websites. Look at this leg, for example. Oops. Okay, just this leg has Pro Optimizer. Calculate. This leg only has almost 7,000 polygons, so I will decrease without changing the quality, like this, like 20% maybe. And from 7,000 we have now 1,200 polygons. So Pro Optimizer allows you to work with extremely complex geometry, but by making them low poly object. Okay? Is this modifier clear? And also, after this modifier, you can keep transforming your object. You can keep converting it to editable poly. You can select just these polygons in here, cut it, materials, and the UVW map and whatsoever. Perfect! Very nice. So, now that we have these two objects, let's see a little bit. So let's start working with lights. That is a part of 3ds Max that is just too cool. And also it is crucial when we are going to make our final renderings, because lights will give us correct mood, shadows, the depth, the atmosphere, and so on and so on. So, let's see this. First of all, thank you so much for the feedback also. So, first of all, we have these two objects, and why not? Let's keep them. I will simply build an environment around these objects. So I will make a floor. We'll make a wall in here. I mean, I don't have to be precise in terms of millimeters, but I'm making something that will look like a realistic room. So I'm making walls that have realistic height also. Okay, they are more or less 300 centimeters. We'll make a wall in here. So let's just move the bed. And can you see how handy it is to make things like a group? Look, the chair is not a group. So now that I also have the floor, selecting the chair is a nightmare, because I have to do this, press Alt, deselect the floor. So I will quickly make it a group again, so that when I select it, boom, I move the entire chair. And I have, let's say, this room that has the chair as a bedside table. Wow, what a design. So now I will just put a ceiling on top by making shift and move here. And not because it is mandatory, but just because I want to show you lights. What I will do is, to all the environment, I will apply a white material. So I will select all these objects. I go to my material editor, and I want to use something white. So you know what? I will do it by myself, because it's faster. So I want to make a physical material. I double click on the physical material because I want it white and matte without any other possible parameters. So I will make the base color, I will make it white, and I will make roughness 1, simply because I want it matte, not because you have to do it, but just because I like to explain behavior of lights in a neutral white environment to avoid any kind of confusion. So now we have our white room, and we have those objects inside. I will also turn off edged faces because I don't need them. And I will just move these a little bit above. Ready for this? See this. In order to create lights, what you have to do is you have to go to the Create tab on your command panel. You have to click the light family, the one that has a lamp, and according to the fact that we are using now ART renderer, we will use photometric lights. I will start showing you free light, and the more we go on, the more details I will explain about other light types. But let's start with a free light. So I click free light, and I have, with a single click, I have to place my light into my project. I will first place it here outside my room, and I will show you something. Now, if I move the light in my project, I can't see anything changing in my viewport. Okay? But see this. If I press rendering button like we did last week, so if I start, we did last week to check parameters like bump, reflections, transparency, and so on and so on. But if I render now that I have a light, see how different it will be what you see into the viewport to what you have into the rendering. So take a look. This is what you see. Okay, there are some more material missing. Okay. And look. This is what we have, and this is what we see. So you will notice that by having the light placed inside our project, we can start viewing that there are shadows, that there are elements with highlights. For example, due to the position of my lamp, the outside of the room is completely black, while in here it is white. Okay? And working with lights in this way, let me tell you, it is extremely complex, because each time that you change something into your light, you should technically render to see what you're doing. So now we need to find a better way to make this happening. So see this beautiful adjustment that you have to do in your viewport to work better with lights. There is this. Ready? Steady? Go. You need, in your perspective, you need to click here where you see standard. You open this menu. You have to go to the menu that is called lighting and shadows, and you have to set lighting and shadows with this second value here that is called illuminate with scene lights. So you check here. And you will start viewing this phenomenal thing. Look. You will start viewing that according to where you move the light. Let's place it here, there, here, there. You will see changing in real time. So if I place my lamp inside the room, but you will see it in real time. There is something more that we have to do before being able to correctly work with lights. That is, can you see that when I have made my render, I had shadows, and if I see here, look, underneath the chair or underneath the bed, there are no shadows. This is wrong. So again, to correctly understand which exact behavior my lights will have, I have to go again on where it was written standard, but now it's called user defined because we are customizing our viewport. So I click here again. I go again to lighting and shadows, and I need also to check the option that is called enable here shadows. So I will click here. So that now not only, so let's give it a second exactly to think. So now not only I see what happens if I move my light and I can see what is illuminated and what remains dark, but I also see shadows changing according to the position of my light. Okay? So there are two settings that you have to do, that you have to manage, both by clicking this middle column into the viewport itself. You have to go in lighting and shadows, and this is exactly how your viewport should be set. So you can see that the option called illuminate with scene light and the option shadows are both enabled, so that into your viewport you can immediately see the behavior of light, and when you will hit render, your rendering result will be 99% close and similar to what you see in your viewport. So you don't have to expect very big differences in between what you see and what you get. Okay? Till here? Let me check. So is this working for all of you? Let me see. Fantastic. We have first yes, second yes, third one. Very nice. Oh ho ho! So it looks like it works. Perfect. So let's see now all unbelievable things that we can do with just with that single light that we have started placing inside our room. There are multiple aspects that we have to discover about light. They are divided into certain categories, and let's see how many properties light has into the modify tab. So beside the position, we need to go to the modify tab, and we need to see which parameters we have to manage, because there are a lot of them and they are extremely important. So first of all, in case you have not, first and most important parameter is that shadows, so let's change the color. Shadows must be on, because in reality it doesn't exist a light source that won't project shadows also. So this must be on. It has to be also, if it is not, set as ray traced shadow. So this that you see is the exact same setting that you should have for all of your lights. If not, light behavior will be weird and it will be fake. For example, a ray traced shadow simply means that if I have a piece of glass in here, because glass is transparent, light hits the glass, but the shadow will be transparent as well. But if I'm not using ray traced and I'm using everything else, 3ds Max will just check the geometry, and even if this is glass, believe it or not, it will project a black shadow. So your rendering will look unbelievably fake. So this is parameter number 1. You must check that the shadow is on and the calculation is ray traced. Let's go to parameter number 2, that is light distribution. We will see 3 light distribution, and by default, whenever you make a new light, your light distribution is always set as uniform spherical. What it means is very simple. Let me zoom out. Uniform spherical means that from where light is placed, that is here, light is projected with a spherical direction. So light goes up, left, down, to the right, in back, in front, and so on and so on. So it goes to all possible direction with same exact intensity. Again, this is only by default that it starts like this, and this is also correct according to certain lights that you want to simulate. For example, if you want to simulate a bulb lamp, this would be perfect, because a bulb lamp gives you this exact kind of behavior. But if you want to simulate other kind of lights, for example, like a pendant light, you can change uniform spherical to my next distribution, that is called uniform diffuse. Uniform diffuse will be more or less like a photographer studio kind of light, the one that has, those lights that are softened by soft boxes or umbrellas, stuff like that. But a uniform diffuse is instead a light that it has a direction, so it is not more going all over the space, but edges and the shape of these light are very soft, and they are more or less like a sphere of light that starts from here. But right now our light is not more the center of the sphere, but it is vertical. It is top vertex of this sphere. So we have light going in half of our previous direction, but now, for example, it makes also sense the fact that we are not only limited in wait a second in moving our light, but when we change to uniform diffuse, we are also able to rotate the light to start saying in which direction we want to project it. Okay? So let's see. So if we are using an aluminum profile, wait a second. So if we are using an aluminum profile, we use uniform diffuse. You mean like if you want to simulate like tube lamps? Or no, I don't get what it means using an aluminum profile. Define this question a little bit better. Because I'm not getting it. Okay. So like an LED strip light, like those there are into corners of the room, stuff like this. Yes, you use for LED lights, you have to use uniform diffuse, because LED lights are not spherical lights. They project light in a precise direction that is wide, but it is directional. It is not omnidirectional. So yes, 100% you must use uniform diffuse rather than uniform spherical, of course. Yes. So, I mean, just to make a summary, we can use uniform spherical for light bulbs, uniform diffuse for LED light, but there are also more specific lights that have a well-defined range of illumination, and those are spotlights. And again, if we want to make our light working like a spotlight, again, we just need to change the light distribution, and we need to change it to spotlight. And this is, wait a second so that it loads, and this will be what a spotlight will look like. So, again, we can not only move our light, but we will be also able to see what happens if we rotate our light. Okay? But this is a spotlight that is basically like a cone of light. And only when we change our light to spotlight, we will also see that there will be these two numbers appearing. These two numbers are called hotspot and fall-off, and what they do is they allow you to change the width of our spotlight. So hotspot is center area. Let's wait a second. Exactly. Where there is focused the entire energy of light. Fall off instead shows you the fading area that goes from light to darkness. So you can have like sharp edges, hot spotlight, when these two angles are basically the same, or you can have soft edges of light if you have a very wide fall off. And you can change them independently, but hotspot can't be bigger than the fall off. And for example, let me show you this super simple example. If I want, I can just place my spotlight close to the wall, and I will make it with the fall off a little bit wider, just because I like it. Lights in 3ds Max are also objects like anything else, so you can move them, you can rotate them, and you can also make shift and move. And even here, if you make copies or instances, you will get the same kind of result. So look, I will make, for example, shift and move, and I will start by making duplicates of my spotlight. 5 was enough. And I see this final result in my scene. I have this wall that is hit by these beautiful lights, and remaining part of my room remains super dark and mysterious. Okay? I can shift and move this light here. Let's say I'll make 8 probably. No, this is too much. Exactly. I make these other spotlights. Just give it a second, because streaming and rendering is not that simple. Perfect. I don't know why these are not showing, but it is probably only because, wait a second, I am streaming while I'm showing you these things. But just to show you that you can also clone lights, but I want to do something a lot more interesting, and I will keep it like this. So the distribution changes where light, and how, to be more precise, light is projected by our light source. Okay? And if I make instances, whatever I change in one of my light will affect all of them. Okay? Like any other object in 3ds Max. But after the distribution of light, we need, if this is clear, first of all, let me know now. So if distribution of light is clear, there are 3: uniform spherical, uniform diffuse, and spotlight. Are these clear? Because there is another one, but especially for the first time that you see light, there is another one called photometric web that is very complex. It takes forever to explain, so I will maybe explain another day. But for now, are these 3 distribution types clear? Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much. Very good. So now, let's see another extremely important parameter. That is the color of light. So the reason why I've made my walls white is simply because at the very beginning, when you first create a light, even light color in 3ds Max is always set to be pure white. So you can see that these halos here are white for two reasons. Reason 1, wall is white. Reason 2, light is white. But I can change the color of light as well, and I can change it in slightly different ways by going a little bit underneath the area of distribution and by finding this area that is called color. So I have three ways to change light color. Way number 1 is by really knowing the emitter technology, so the way that the lamp works, so that I can choose from this menu realistic light sources, and according to that 3ds Max will use realistic color. So for example, I can use by default it always goes from D65, that is a light color that has 6500 Kelvin degrees. But for example, if we use I don't know, fluorescent daylight, this is more or less the same, but oops, wait a second, this would be white as well. If we change to something that is completely different, let's say if you have those old incandescent filament lamps, so I would choose last one, you will see instead that the color of light will be extremely yellow. It will be basically orange. Okay? Or you can change it like, I don't know, high ED mercury. These are basically lamps that you find outside nighttime on the street. They are called mercury lamps. You will see that the color changes and it becomes less orange, more on the yellowish color. Or if you have warm white, light are very yellow. But if you want to be extremely precise, another way to change the color of light is, instead of using the nature of your emitter, you can check the Kelvin parameter. And Kelvin is a value that when you buy a lamp, you will find into specs of the lamp, you will find this information written on the lamp itself. Kelvin degrees is a unit that goes from 2000 to 10,000, and when the lower this number is, the more yellow, orange, or red the light becomes. And if you increase it, the light becomes from red, orange, yellow, then it becomes white. But after a certain amount of Kelvin degrees, the light becomes blue or almost purple. And if you don't believe me, see this. Let's go to a website of a brand that makes lights. So let's go to Philips Lighting or IKEA, whatever. I mean, so we go to lamps. Let's see if I can change it, yes, whatever, to English. What is English? is everything. Oh, finally, English. Okay, so that at least. Okay, so we have these. We just want to find a light. So I go here. Welcome. Okay, is there anything else that I can do with this website or not? Consumer products here, finally. Okay, light bulbs. So look, I'm just randomly selecting a light bulb E27. Perfect. Select this one. There is no lighting. Fantastic. This website is terrible. I should check it before. Let's see this one. Oh, see this. Let's say I want to use this light and I don't know the color of this light. So I go to specifications and beside billions of unusable numbers, I will see this. The color temperature. In all lights, believe it or not, you will always find this information. And you can see that this value is a value that is very close to 2000. It is 2700 K. K means Kelvin. So if I want to simulate this exact light color in my 3ds Max project, the only thing that I have to do will be I go to 3ds Max, I change the way that I manage the color to Kelvin degrees, and inside this numeric field I type 2700, and you will see your color changing, becoming that orange. But believe it or not, it is exactly the color made by this specific lamp. Okay? Till here? Because this is just the beginning. Color temperature is also one of the parameters that we have to see in here, so I won't even close. Thank you so much for the feedback. Perfect. But let's see these also. Let's say you experiment both these numbers, Kelvin and the color nature, and so on and so on, and you will see this. Look. When this is 8000, this is red. The more you increase it, it becomes orange, becomes yellow, becomes yellowish. It becomes white at a certain point, and then after white starts drifting to blue. Okay? But what if I want to make a light that is green or magenta or another, whatever other color? You need to know that in reality, lights can have whatever color you want just by applying a filter in front of the light. And this is why there is also this last option in managing the color of light that is called the filter color. So if I start at 6500, that is pure white, what I can also do is, instead of using a Kelvin degrees, because I want to make a green light, I can click filter color, and I can change my color from white to whatever saturated color, and I will see that the light will acquire that filtered color. And I can click OK. So I'm not limited in using realistic natural light colors, but I can also simulate that I have filters in front of my lamp, and I can obtain whatever color there is into the RGB spectrum of color space. So I can simulate. Have you ever seen those LED strips that, for example, have the color that is said is breathing, so it's changing from turn it off and then it becomes green, let's say, and then it is then off and green, off and green. For example, you can do this in 3ds Max by changing the value. So one day probably we will see animation, I don't know, but if we make a filter color that is darker, basically we can simulate that the light goes to different green intensities, and it breathes from dark to green like that. As well as we can change the hue, so we can see our light colors changing like that. Okay? And if you do this fast, you can imagine that you are at the disco, like boom, 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 boom. But most important is, with lights, you can start by creating a certain mood, a certain atmosphere in your project. Okay? So let's say I can make these purple. Then look what I will do. In my room, I will shift and move one of these lights, one only, and you will see the reason why in a second. And I will make this as a copy, so that it starts by being the same of those, but it is actually independent. And I will make these green. And then I will make now shift and move, and I will make instances of this one. There is space for another one. But now, give me a second. Boom. Come on, 3ds Max. I know you can do it. I mean, you can't. Believe it or not, this is an issue that happens only because I am streaming while I am using 3ds Max. If not, all of these lights should be visible. It is very stressed, my poor laptop. See if I make less. Because if not, in general, this is a lot faster as a process. Oh, fantastic! I've deleted the wall by mistake. So here's the wall. And see if I make just another one, please. No, it doesn't want. That's okay. Into the rendering it should appear, but I'm just showing you that you can create this side. Is there a shortcut to change from scene lights to default? No, there is no shortcut. It is always like this. Left click in here, lighting and shadows, and you have to manually set our default lights. That is how it starts 3ds Max, or lighting and shadows, illuminate with scene lights. But there is not a keyboard shortcut to quickly switch from one light setting to another one. Nope. No, there is not. And what I was saying is, last thing is, for example, now in my project I can just place another light, and let's say I will place it here, and I can start mixing things together, so I can make these like uniform diffuse. I will make the color of these, I will make it that is purple, that is green, I will make it blue. Okay. Again, you are not viewing it just because I'm streaming and the computer is saying please stop. But if I render, I should see all of these lights as a final result. Yes, whatever. Yes, whatever. I can see that my blue light is too big. Trust me, if I wasn't streaming, I could see the preview of that. So I would just make a darker color. Let's see, I render. But just to show you that you can start creating atmospheres in your project, so you can see that all lights are correctly rendered. You shouldn't have this issue if you're not streaming live your viewports. Okay, and these are first parameters that we need to work with when we use lights: shadows, distribution, and color. For today, I would like to stop here. Next week we have to continue with lights because we have to see intensity, we have to see dimension, and we have to see the difference between this light and sunlight. So if we want to simulate natural light from the outside. Okay, so just couple of seconds to let me know if you have questions. If not, for today this will be enough to start working with lights. So let me check the chat to see if you have questions about what we have seen. Oh, fantastic. No questions. No, merci. Thank you. You're welcome. Chiaro. Perfect. No question. Oh, thank you so much. No question. Perfect. So if you have no questions, feel free to send me if you have already done something for your final, so that I can have a look and I can give you a feedback. If not, I mean, the end of the semester is not that far, so if you haven't started yet, start working on your final project. Okay? And with this being said, we will see next week on Monday and to discover new unbelievable features about light. Okay? Bye, everyone. It has been a pleasure, and as usual, have fun, not too much. And let me close this.